The bridge of the Eternal Sovereignty was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. High Commander Salox stood at the center of the room, his forearms folded behind his back. His gray skin reflected the blue light from dozens of screens around him. He had commanded this ship for 30 years. He had crushed rebellions on 6 worlds. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. "High Commander," said Lieutenant Vorath from the sensor station. His voice carried a note of confusion. "We are detecting vessels entering the sector." Salox did not turn around. Ships entered Dominion space all the time. Traitors, refugees, fools who did not know any better. "How many?" 13, sir." Now Salox turned. 13 was a strange number. Too few for an invasion. Too many for a simple trading convoy. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life. Salox saw 13 shapes moving slowly through the darkness of space. They were ugly things, boxy and rough, with none of the smooth curves that marked proper starship design. Their hulls were covered in strange patterns, numbers and letters in a language the computer did not recognize. "What species?" Salox asked. "Unknown, sir. The translation matrix is working on their broadcasts, but it will take time." Salox studied the ships more closely. They were small. The largest one was barely half the size of his own vessel, and their technology was clearly primitive. He could see the flare of chemical engines pushing them forward. Chemical engines, like something from ancient history. "They do not have fold space drives," Vorath said, amazement in his voice. "They traveled here using normal propulsion. At their speed, they must have been flying for years." A low chuckle spread across the bridge. The officers looked at each other with smiles on their faces. Salox understood why. The Valeth Dominion controlled 17 star systems. They had conquered 43 species over 6,000 years of expansion. Their fleet numbered in the thousands. Their weapons could crack planets open like eggs, and here were 13 small ships with chemical engines. "Perhaps they are lost," said Weapons Officer Krell. He was a large male with scars across his face from old battles. "Perhaps they do not know where they are. Or perhaps they are stupid," another officer added. More laughter filled the bridge. Salox raised one hand and the laughter stopped. He was amused, yes, but he was also careful. He had not survived this long by ignoring strange things. "Scan their weapons." Vorath worked his console. "They appear to have projectile weapons, sir. Kinetic launchers of some kind. Also some form of missile system. Very basic. Our shields could stop their entire arsenal without losing power. And their defenses? Electromagnetic barriers. Simple hull armor. Nothing that would survive a single shot from our plasma lances." Salox allowed himself a small smile. This was not a threat. This was a curiosity. These primitive creatures had somehow traveled across the stars in their slow, ugly ships, and now they had stumbled into the most powerful empire in the known galaxy. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Standard intimidation broadcast." The communications officer nodded and began the transmission. The message was simple and had been used countless times before. It informed the unknown vessels that they had entered sovereign Valeth space. It told them that any hostile action would result in immediate destruction. It demanded that they surrender their ships, their weapons, and their crew for inspection. The Dominion had sent this message to hundreds of species over the centuries. Most surrendered immediately. Some tried to run. A few tried to fight. None of them survived. Salox waited. Minutes passed. The 13 ships did not stop. They did not change course. They kept moving forward, deeper into Dominion territory. "They are ignoring us," Vorath said. "Perhaps their communication systems are damaged," Krell suggested. "No," the communications officer said. "They received the message. I can see their systems processing it. They are simply not responding." Salox felt the first hint of curiosity turn into something else. Not fear. He had not felt fear in decades. But something. These creatures were either very brave or very foolish. "Send the message again," he ordered. They sent it 3 more times. Each time, the ships continued forward without response. Then, finally, after almost an hour, a reply came. The screen showed a face. It was a strange face. Pale skin, like the belly of a cave fish. 2 small eyes set close together. A thin mouth. Hair on top of its head, dark and short. The creature was wearing some kind of uniform, dark blue with symbols on the chest. It spoke. The words were harsh and quick, full of sounds the Valeth had never heard before. The translation matrix worked frantically to decode the message. "This will take time," the communications officer said. "The language is completely unknown to our systems." Salox watched the creature on the screen. It did not look afraid. It did not look impressed by the massive Valeth dreadnought. It simply looked determined. There was something in those small eyes that Salox did not like. Something hard. They waited while the computers worked. Officers made jokes about the ugly alien and its primitive ships. Someone suggested they should capture the creatures and put them in a zoo. More laughter. Finally, after 17 cycles, the translation was complete. "Play the message," Salox ordered. The alien's voice filled the bridge again. But this time the words appeared on the screen in Valeth script. "We are not here for you. We are here for what is behind you. Stand aside." Silence fell across the bridge. Salox read the words again, then again. He turned to look at the star map behind him. Behind them was the Korath Nebula, and beyond that was the hollow expanse, a vast region of empty space that the Dominion had long ago declared worthless. Nothing lived there. Nothing could live there. There were no planets, no resources, no anything. Just empty darkness stretching for hundreds of light years. "What is behind us?" Krell asked. "There is nothing there. They must be confused," Voreth said. "Their navigation systems are probably as primitive as everything else." But Salox kept staring at the star map. Something about the message bothered him. The alien had not asked for permission. It had not pleaded or threatened. It had simply stated a fact. "We are here for what is behind you." "Hi, Commander." Voreth was looking at him with concern. "What are your orders?" Salox shook off his unease. He was being foolish. These were primitive creatures in primitive ships. Whatever they thought was in the hollow expanse. They were wrong. There was nothing there. There had never been anything there. "Move the fleet to intercept," he ordered. "We will capture these vessels and learn everything we can about them. Where they come from, what they want, how they managed to travel so far in such pathetic ships, and if they resist?" Krell asked. His hand was already moving toward the weapons console. Salox smiled. "Then we will show them what happens to those who resist the Dominion." The Valeth fleet began to move. 47 capital ships turned toward the 13 small vessels. Hundreds of support craft followed. It was more firepower than most species ever saw in their entire existence. On the bridge of the Eternal Sovereignty, the officers were relaxed. This was not a battle. This was a collection. They would scoop up these primitives like a child collecting insects and then return to their normal patrol. The 13 ships did not run. Salox noticed this first. He expected the small fleet to scatter once they saw the Dominion forces approaching. Any reasonable species would flee when faced with such overwhelming numbers, but the ships maintained their formation. They did not speed up. They did not slow down. They simply kept moving forward. "They are either very brave," Voreth said quietly, "or they do not understand what they are facing. They will understand soon enough." Krell growled. The fleets grew closer. The Valeth ships spread out in a standard capture formation. They would surround the primitive vessels and disable their engines with focused plasma strikes. Then boarding parties would move in. Simple, clean, efficient. When the distance between the fleets reached weapons range, Salox gave the order. "Disable their engines. Nothing more. I want these ships intact." Green plasma bolts shot across space. They struck the leading vessel of the alien fleet. The shots were precisely aimed at the engine section. The first bolt hit, then the second, then the third. The ship kept moving. Salox leaned forward. "Report." Voreth was staring at his console. "Direct hits confirmed, sir. But the vessel is still operational. That is impossible. Our plasma lances can cut through battleship armor. I am telling you what the sensors show." The ship is damaged but still moving. On the main screen, Salox could see the alien vessel now. Its hull was glowing where the plasma had struck. Pieces of metal were falling away. Smoke or gas was venting from cracks in the armor. But the engines were still firing. The ship was still coming. "Hit them again," Salox ordered. More plasma fire poured into the small ship. Its hull began to melt. The entire front section was now a mass of glowing metal. No ship should be able to survive that kind of damage. No ship should still be flying. But it was. "Hi, Commander," Voreth said, his voice strange. "The other ships are accelerating." Salox looked at the tactical display. The 12 remaining alien vessels had increased their speed. They were not fleeing. They were charging directly at the Dominion fleet. "What are they doing?" someone asked. "They are attacking," Saylox said. He could not quite believe the words even as he spoke them. 13 ships attacking 47. It was madness. "All ships, open fire," he commanded. "Destroy them." The Valeth fleet unleashed its full power. Plasma lances, particle beams, missile swarms. The space between the two fleets filled with deadly light. The alien ships flew straight into it. The first ship finally died. Its hull broke apart under the constant fire. It split into pieces, scattering debris across space. But then something happened that Saylox would remember for the rest of his life. Small objects shot out from the dying ship. Dozens of them. They were shaped like seeds, with tiny engines on one end. They moved fast, faster than the debris around them, and they were heading toward the Dominion fleet. "What are those?" Saylox demanded. "Scanning." Voreth's fingers danced over his console. Then he looked up, his face pale. "There are life signs inside them. They are escape pods. The crew is abandoning ship. Good. Move in and collect them." "No, sir. You do not understand." Voreth's voice was shaking now. "They are not fleeing. The pods are accelerating toward us. They are heading for our cruisers." Saylox watched the screen. The tiny pods were weaving through the plasma fire. Some were destroyed, but others kept coming. They were too small and too fast for the main weapons to track. The first pod struck a Dominion cruiser. It did not explode. It did not bounce off. It punched through the hull like a needle through cloth. Saylox saw the flash of emergency lights on the cruiser as atmosphere began venting. "They breached the hull," the tactical officer reported. "The pod is inside the ship." "They breached a Dominion cruiser with an escape pod?" "The pod appears to be reinforced, designed for impact." Saylox suddenly understood. These were not escape pods. They were boarding craft. The crew of the dying ship had not abandoned it. They had launched themselves at the enemy. "They are insane," Krill whispered. More pods hit. 3 cruisers now had alien intruders inside them. Reports began flooding in from the affected ships. The aliens were small, only about 2/3 the size of a Valeth warrior. They wore bulky suits that covered their entire bodies. They carried projectile weapons that fired metal slugs at high speed. And they were fighting. "Security teams to all breach sections," Saylox ordered. "Eliminate the intruders." But the reports kept getting worse. "Sir, the aliens are not going down," a captain reported from one of the cruisers. "We shot one 6 times and it kept firing. They are using explosive devices. One of them detonated a bomb while surrounded by our troops. It killed itself along with everyone nearby. We have lost the engine room on the Crushing Fury. The aliens overloaded the reactor." Saylox gripped the edge of his command console. This was not possible. These primitive creatures, with their primitive weapons and their primitive ships, were causing real damage to his fleet. How? On the main screen, another alien ship died. It broke apart under concentrated fire. More pods launched from its wreckage, more needle-like craft carrying more soldiers who were happy to die as long as they could take some Valeth with them. "High Commander," the communications officer said, "we are receiving another transmission from the alien fleet." "Put it through." The screen showed the same alien face as before, but now Saylox could see more. The creature was on the bridge of its ship. There was smoke in the air. Warning lights flashed behind it. A wound on its head was bleeding red liquid. But the creature was smiling. It spoke again. This time the translation came immediately. "You have 2 choices. Help us kill what is in that nebula, or stay here and die with the rest of this sector when it wakes up. We do not have time to explain twice. We do not have time to negotiate. We traveled 4 years to get here, and we will complete our mission." The creature paused. Its small eyes stared directly at the camera, directly at Saylox. "Every single one of us is already dead. We accepted that before we left home. That is the difference between us. We are not trying to survive. We are trying to make sure our children do." The transmission ended. The bridge of the eternal sovereignty was silent. Saylox looked at the tactical display. 7 alien ships were still flying. They were all damaged. They were all still coming. Around them, the space was filled with pods and debris and death. 3 Dominion cruisers were without power, their crews fighting room by room against boarders who refused to die easily. Saylox looked at the star map again. At the darkness beyond the Korath Nebula. At the hollow expanse. What was in there? What could possibly make these creatures travel for 4 years in their slow, primitive ships? What could make them throw their lives away like this? High Commander? Vorath asked. What are your orders? Salox did not answer immediately. He was thinking about the alien's words. We are not trying to survive. We are trying to make sure our children do. He had heard fanatics before. He had fought religious zealots and political extremists and desperate rebels. They all had a certain look in their eyes. A wildness. A madness. The alien had not looked mad. It had looked certain. Completely and absolutely certain. And that, Salox realized, was far more terrifying. Hold fire, he said quietly. Sir. I said hold fire. Salox straightened his uniform. Open a channel to the alien vessel. Tell them. He paused, searching for the right words. Tell them I am listening. The battle was not over. The boarding actions continued. The remaining alien ships kept pushing forward, but something had changed. The laughter was gone from the Valeth Bridge. The confidence was gone. In its place was something new, something that the Dominion had not felt in 6,000 years, doubt, and in the darkness beyond the nebula, something ancient and hungry stirred in its sleep, dreaming of the feast to come. Admiral Yuna Chen stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiance and watched her ship die around her. The plasma fire from the alien fleet had torn through the outer hull. Entire sections were open to space. Warning lights flashed on every console. The smell of burning metal and melted plastic filled the air. 3 of her bridge crew were dead, their bodies covered with emergency blankets in the corner. None of this mattered. Chen wiped blood from her forehead and looked at the tactical display. 7 ships left out of 13. 412 crew members still alive out of the original 2,000. They had lost so much. They had so far still to go, but they were still moving forward. Admiral, said Commander Torres from the helm. His voice was calm despite the chaos around them. The alien fleet has stopped firing. Chen nodded. She had seen the same thing. The massive ships that had been trying to destroy them were now holding position. The weapons that had been pouring death at her fleet were silent. They received our message, she said. You think they will help us? Chen looked at the alien flagship on her screen. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the Defiance. Its hull was smooth and curved, covered in strange symbols. It looked like something from a dream or a nightmare. I do not know, she admitted. But they stopped shooting. That is a start. She turned to her communications officer. Lieutenant Park, are they responding? Park listened to his headset. His face was young, too young for a mission like this. He had been a college student 4 years ago, before Earth learned the truth about what waited in the stars. They want to talk, Park said. The alien commander wants to know what is in the hollow expanse. Chen felt something loosen in her chest. Not relief. Not yet, but hope. Tell them, I will explain everything. But first we need to stop the fighting. Our people are still on their ships. The next hour was chaos. Communications flew between the fleets. Ceasefire orders went out. On 3 Dominion cruisers, human boarding teams received commands to stand down. Some did not believe it at first. They had been fighting room by room, dying meter by meter, expecting nothing but death. The order to stop seemed like a trick, but slowly, the fighting ended. Chen watched the status reports come in. 47 human soldiers had boarded the alien ships. 19 were still alive. They had killed over 300 of the aliens, disabled 2 reactors, and damaged countless systems. 19 people. Against an entire fleet. Torres looked at the numbers. How did they do it? He asked quietly. How did 19 people cause that much damage? Chen thought about her soldiers. She knew each of them by name. Jackson, who had been a farmer before the program. Okonkwo, who had left behind 3 children. Martinez, who had volunteered on her 18th birthday. Because they were not fighting to win, she said. They were fighting to make a point. To show these aliens that we are not afraid. That we will not stop. That killing us is expensive. Torres was silent for a moment. The aliens must think we are insane. Good. Maybe insane is what we need to be. The communication channel opened. The alien commander appeared on the screen. Chen studied him carefully. 4 arms, gray skin. A face that reminded her of something between a lizard and a human. large eyes that looked old and tired and confused. "I am High Commander Salox of the Valeth Dominion," the alien said. The translation was rough but understandable. "You said there is something in the hollow expanse. Explain." Chen took a deep breath. This was the moment. 4 years of travel. Thousands of lives. Everything came down to this. "My name is Admiral Yuna Chen of the United Nations of Earth. My species is called human. We come from a planet very far from here, in a region you probably have not explored. We know nothing of your species," Salox said. "How did you know about the Dominion?" "We did not. We did not come here looking for you. We came here because of what is in the darkness beyond your territory." Chen nodded to Park. The screen changed to show data. Charts, images, readings taken by human deep space probes over 18 years of study. "We call it the Void Nursery," Chen said. "It is a living thing. A creature so large that it stretches across 3 light years. It has been sleeping for millions of years, slowly gathering energy. But it is waking up." Salox stared at the images. His officers were talking among themselves, their voices quick and worried. "This is impossible," Salox said. "We have scanned the hollow expanse many times. There is nothing there. Your scans look for ships, for technology, for life signs as you understand them. The nursery is not like anything you have encountered before. It exists in a state between life and death, between matter and energy. It does not show up on normal sensors." Chen pulled up more data. 18 years ago, one of our probes passed through the expanse. It detected something strange. We sent more probes, then research ships. We lost 6 crews before we understood what we were dealing with. "And what are you dealing with?" Chen looked directly at the alien commander. "A predator. The oldest predator in the galaxy. It feeds on the energy of civilizations, the heat from your engines, the power from your reactors, the signals from your communications. Every ship you fly, every city you build, every transmission you send, it all feeds the nursery." She pulled up a new image. It showed the galaxy. Most of it was marked in blue, but one section, a long spiral arm on the far side, was marked in black. 65 million years ago, this section of the galaxy was full of life. Dozens of species, thousands of worlds. Then the nursery woke up. Chen paused. "Now there is nothing. Every planet is dead. Every species is gone. The nursery fed on them all." Salox was quiet for a long moment. His officers had stopped talking. The bridge of the alien flagship was silent. "Why should I believe you?" Salox finally asked. "Because we would not be here if it was not true." Chen stood up from her command chair. She walked closer to the screen. Her uniform was torn and bloody. Her face was bruised. She looked like someone who had been through a war. "Do you know how long it took us to reach this sector? 4 years. 4 years in these ships, traveling at the fastest speeds we could manage. We left behind our homes, our families, our entire civilization." She gestured at the damaged bridge around her. "Look at my ship. Look at my fleet. We have nothing compared to your Dominion. Our weapons are primitive. Our defenses are weak. We knew when we left Earth that most of us would die before reaching our destination. Then why come?" Chen smiled. It was a sad smile, full of pain and loss and something else. Something that Salox did not quite understand. "Because we have children, Commander. We have families who are depending on us. If the nursery wakes up fully, it will spread outward, feeding on every civilization it finds. Your Dominion, every species you have conquered. And eventually, in a few thousand years, it will reach Earth." She sat back down. "We did not come here to fight you. We did not even know you existed until we arrived in this sector. We came here to kill the nursery before it wakes up, before it destroys everything." "How?" Salox asked. "If this creature is as large as you say, how can you possibly destroy it?" "Antimatter warheads. We have been building them for 15 years. Every resource our planet had went into creating them. They are powerful enough to destroy the nursery's core, but only if we can deliver them directly into its center. A suicide mission." "Yes." Salox was quiet again. Chen could see him thinking. She could see his officers exchanging looks. She knew what they were feeling. Doubt, confusion, maybe fear. "Why should the Dominion help you?" Salox asked. "Even if what you say is true, why should we sacrifice our ships and our people for your mission?" Chen had expected this question. She nodded to Park again. The screen changed to show a map of the sector. Your Dominion controls 17 star systems. You have thousands of ships, millions of people. You have been expanding for 6,000 years. She pointed at the map. All of that expansion has been feeding the nursery. Every time you fly a ship, every time you power a weapon, every time you send a message across space, you send energy into the expanse. You have been ringing a dinner bell for decades. Chen looked at Salox. Our scientists estimate that the nursery will reach full awakening in 11 years, maybe less. When that happens, it will emerge from the expanse and begin feeding on the closest sources of energy. Your 17 star systems, your thousands of ships, your millions of people. She leaned forward. You are the first course, Commander. You are the meal that the nursery will consume before it moves on to the rest of the galaxy. The alien bridge was silent. Chen could see the fear now. It was spreading among the officers like a disease. You have two choices, she said. Help us destroy the nursery, or watch everything you have built be consumed by it. Those are the only options. There is no running. There is no hiding. The nursery will find you wherever you go. It will follow your energy signatures across the galaxy if it has to. Salox looked at his officers. Then he looked back at Chen. I need to verify your claims, he said. I cannot commit the Dominion to a war based on the words of a stranger. I understand. Send your scientists to study our data. Send your ships to scan the expanse with the frequencies we provide. You will find what we found. And then you will know we are telling the truth. Chen stood again. But do it quickly, Commander. We have already lost 4 years getting here. We cannot afford to lose more time. The channel closed. Chen let out a long breath. Her whole body ached. She wanted to sleep for a week, but there was no time for rest. There was never time for rest. Admiral? Torres said. Do you think they believed you? Chen looked out the view screen at the alien fleet. 47 ships, more firepower than humanity had ever possessed. If the Valeth helped them, they might actually have a chance. I do not know, she said, but I know what I saw in that commander's eyes. I saw doubt. I saw fear. And I saw something else. What? Chen smiled slightly. I saw someone who does not want to see his civilization destroyed. That is something we have in common. She turned to her crew. Get the ship patched up as best you can. Recover our soldiers from the alien vessels. And prepare a full data package on the nursery for the Valeth scientists. What if they decide not to help us? Park asked. Chen looked at him. He was so young. 22 years old. He had given up his entire future to come on this mission. Then we continue alone, she said. 7 ships, 400 people. We will fly into that expanse and we will deliver those warheads even if we have to carry them there ourselves. That is impossible, Torres said quietly. We do not have the firepower to get through the nursery's defenses alone. Maybe not. But we will try anyway, because that is what we do. That is what humans have always done. Chen sat back down in her command chair. We fight. We struggle. We refuse to give up even when giving up would be easier. It is not always smart. It is not always successful. But it is who we are. She looked at the darkness beyond the alien fleet. Somewhere out there, something ancient was stirring. Something that had destroyed countless civilizations over millions of years. Something that would destroy everything she loved if she failed. We came here to save our children, Chen said softly. I will not go home and tell them we failed because we decided the odds were too bad. The bridge crew was silent, but Chen could see them sitting up straighter. She could see the determination returning to their faces. They were 4 years from home. They were surrounded by aliens who might decide to finish destroying them at any moment. They had lost more than half their fleet and more than half their people, but they were still here. Still fighting, still moving forward, and somewhere back on Earth, children were looking up at the stars, waiting for their parents to save them. Chen intended to make sure those children were not disappointed. The hours passed. The Valeth sent scientists to examine the human data. They sent ships to scan the hollow expanse using the frequencies Chen provided. And slowly, the doubt began to change to fear, because the humans were right. There was something in the darkness, something ancient and hungry and patient, and it was waking up. High Commander Salox stood in the medical bay of the crushing fury and looked at the bodies. There were 19 of them laid out on tables. 19 aliens. Humans. they called themselves. They were small and soft, with thin limbs and fragile-looking skin. Without their armored suits, they looked like something a Valeth child could break with one hand. But these 19 creatures had killed 342 Dominion soldiers. They had disabled 2 reactors. They had nearly destroyed 3 cruisers. How? Chief Medical Officer Velen moved among the bodies, taking scans and samples. She was old for a Valeth, with gray streaks in her scales and tired eyes. She had examined thousands of alien species over her career, but Salox could see that these humans puzzled her. "Tell me what you have found," Salox said. Velen looked up from her work. "They are remarkable, Commander. And terrible." "Explain." Velen walked to the nearest body. It was a female human, according to the scans. She had dark skin and short hair. Her eyes were closed, and she looked peaceful, almost like she was sleeping. "This one took 7 direct hits from plasma pistols before she died," Velen said. 7. Any Valeth would have been killed by the first shot. But look at her wounds. She pointed to the burns on the human's body. Her tissue has an incredible ability to keep functioning even when damaged. Her heart kept beating for almost 2 minutes after what should have been a fatal injury. Her brain remained active for 90 seconds after her heart stopped. Salox looked at the small body. "Why? How is this possible? Their biology is different from ours in several important ways." Velen moved to a display screen and pulled up diagrams. First, they have a chemical in their blood that causes it to clot very quickly. This stops bleeding faster than in any species I have seen. Second, their nervous system can block pain signals when under extreme stress. They can literally choose to ignore wounds that would leave other species helpless. They can ignore pain? Not completely, but enough to keep fighting. There is a chemical response in their brains, something they call adrenaline. When they are in danger, their bodies release this chemical. It increases their strength, their speed, and their tolerance for injury. It is like a drug that turns them into better warriors. Salox thought about the boarding actions, the reports from his captains, humans who kept shooting after losing limbs, humans who detonated explosives while surrounded by enemies, humans who refused to surrender even when they were clearly dying. "There is more," Velen said. She walked to another body. This one was male, with pale skin covered in strange colored markings. These marks are called tattoos. They are decorative scars that humans give themselves on purpose. They inject colored chemicals under their skin. Why would anyone do that? Because they want to. Because it looks interesting to them. Because they wish to remember something. Velen shook her head. This species damages itself for pleasure and sentiment. They cut their skin, pierce holes in their flesh, change their appearance through surgery. And they do this voluntarily. Salox stared at the tattooed human. They are insane. Perhaps. Or perhaps they simply have a different relationship with pain than we do. To a Valeth, pain is something to be avoided at all costs. To a human, pain seems to be just another experience, something to be managed, even something to be embraced. Velen pulled up more data. I analyzed the brain chemistry of several specimens. When humans experience pain, fear, or extreme stress, their brains produce chemicals that can actually feel pleasurable. They get satisfaction from overcoming difficult situations. The worse things get, the more determined they become. That makes no sense. I agree. But it explains how they fight. Velen looked at Salox with something like respect in her eyes. These creatures evolved on a world that was trying to kill them constantly. Predators, diseases, natural disasters. Other humans, they survived by being tougher and more stubborn than everything else. Pain is not their enemy. Giving up is their enemy. Salox walked slowly among the bodies. He looked at their faces. Some were old, some were young, male and female, different skin colors and body shapes. But they all had one thing in common. They had died fighting. Every single one. The one who blew himself up, Salox said. In the engine room. Tell me about him. Velen led him to a table near the back. What was on it barely looked like a body anymore. The explosion had torn the human apart. His name was Private James Okonkwo. According to the identification we found, he was 34 years old. He had 3 children back on Earth. Velen pointed to a small piece of metal that had been recovered from the scene. This was in his pocket. It appears to be some kind of image capture device. Salox looked at the device. The screen was cracked but still working. It showed a picture of the dead human with 3 small humans gathered around him. They were all smiling. He carried his children with him, Velen said softly. He looked at them before he detonated the explosive. We found the device several meters from the blast. He must have thrown it clear at the last moment. Salox felt something he had not felt in a very long time. He did not have a word for it. It was not quite respect. It was not quite fear. It was something in between. He wanted someone to find it, Salox said. He wanted us to know that he had children, that he was not just a soldier, that he was a father. That is my conclusion as well. Salox looked at the picture for a long moment. Then he carefully set the device down. Prepare a report for the High Council, he said. Include everything you have found. Everything. He walked toward the door, then stopped. Velen, what would happen if we went to war with these humans? The medical officer was quiet for a moment. I do not know, Commander. But I will tell you this. In all my years, I have never encountered a species that was so perfectly designed for war. Not because of their strength, not because of their technology, but because of their spirit. She gestured at the bodies around them. These 19 soldiers killed 300 of ours. They had inferior weapons. They had no backup. They knew they were going to die. And they attacked anyway, not because they were ordered to, not because they were afraid, but because they believed in something worth dying for. Velen looked at Salox with old, tired eyes. If we fought the humans in a real war, we might win. We have more ships, more weapons, more people, but the cost would be unimaginable. They would make us pay for every system, every planet, every meter of space. And they would never stop, never surrender, never give up. How do you know this? Because I examined their brains, Commander. I looked at how they think. They have a concept in their minds, something they call spite. It means hurting yourself to hurt your enemy even more. It means losing everything just to make sure your opponent loses too. It is the most self-destructive thing I have ever encountered. She paused. And it is the most terrifying. Salox left the medical bay without another word. He walked through the damaged corridors of the crushing fury, past crews working to repair the destruction the humans had caused. They looked at him with fear in their eyes. Not fear of him, fear of what they had faced. He understood how they felt. He returned to the eternal sovereignty and went to his private quarters. For a long time, he sat in the darkness, thinking about everything he had learned. The humans said there was something in the hollow expanse, something that would destroy everything. His scientists had confirmed their data. The readings were strange and terrifying. There was indeed something out there, something huge, something alive. But the humans troubled him more than the nursery. They had traveled for 4 years to get here. They had left behind their families, their homes, their entire civilization. They had come to fight something that would not threaten their world for thousands of years. They had come to save children who were not even born yet. What kind of species did that? His communicator beeped. It was Lieutenant Vorath. Commander, the human admiral is requesting another meeting. She says her ships are ready to continue the mission. Salox closed his eyes. Ready to continue? They have 7 ships left. Half of them are barely functional. I told her that, sir. She said that 7 ships is more than enough. More than enough for what? To fly into the expanse and deliver the warheads. She says they will do it alone if they have to. Vorath paused. She says they expected to do it alone from the beginning. Salox thought about the picture in the dead soldier's pocket. 3 children smiling up at their father. Tell her I will meet with her in 1 hour, he said. And tell her I am bringing representatives from the High Council. They need to hear what she has to say. Yes, Commander. The communication ended. Salox sat in the darkness for a moment longer. Then he stood up and began preparing for the most important meeting of his life. 1 hour later, he stood on the bridge of the Eternal Sovereignty with 5 members of the Valeth High Council. They were the most powerful beings in the Dominion. They had conquered worlds. They had crushed rebellions. They had never met a species they could not defeat. But when Admiral Chen appeared on the screen, Salox saw something change in their eyes. She was still wounded, still wearing her torn uniform, still standing on the bridge of her damaged ship. But there was something in her face that made the council members shift uncomfortably. She was not afraid. Chen began to speak. She told them everything. The discovery of the nursery 18 years ago. The research missions that had cost so many lives. The terrible truth about what the creature was and what it would do when it woke up. She told them about Earth. About a small blue planet far away where 7 billion humans lived. About children who played in parks and students who studied in schools and families who sat down together for dinner, all of them unaware of the threat that waited in the darkness. She told them about the decision to build the fleet, about the sacrifices that had been made, about the people who had given up everything to come on this mission, and she told them about her daughter. Her name is Maya, Chen said. She is 12 years old. She likes to read books and play music and watch the stars at night. When I left Earth, she made me promise that I would come back. Chen's voice stayed steady, but Salox could see the pain in her eyes. I knew I was lying when I made that promise. I knew I would probably never see her again, but I made it anyway, because that is what parents do. We lie to our children to protect them. We tell them everything will be okay, even when we know it will not be. She looked directly at the council members. I am not asking you to help me because it is right. I am not asking you to help me because we are friends. I am asking you to help me because if you do not, every child in this sector of the galaxy is going to die, including yours. One of the council members stepped forward. He was old, even by Valeth standards. His scales were almost white, and his eyes were clouded with age. But his voice was strong, human. You come to our space, you attack our ships, you kill our soldiers, and now you ask for our help? He made a sound that might have been a laugh. Why should we not simply destroy your remaining vessels and forget this ever happened? Chen smiled. It was not a friendly smile, because you saw what 19 of my soldiers did to 3 of your ships. Now imagine what 7 billion would do if you gave us a reason to fight you. She leaned forward. We are not a threat to you, counselor, but we could be, very easily. We could spend the next 1,000 years building ships and weapons and armies. We could turn our entire civilization into a machine for war. And then we could come back here and show you what humans really look like when they are angry. The council member did not respond, but Salox saw fear flicker in his eyes. Or, Chen continued, you could help us. You could join your fleet to ours. You could help us destroy the nursery before it destroys everything. And then, when it is done, you could have humanity as an ally instead of an enemy. She sat back. The choice is yours. But make it quickly. Every day we wait is another day the nursery grows stronger. The council members looked at each other. Then they looked at Salox. What do you recommend, Commander? The old one asked. Salox thought about the bodies in the medical bay. About the soldier who had thrown away the picture of his children before dying. About the woman on the screen who had traveled 4 years just to die in a place no one had ever heard of. I recommend we help them, he said. Why? Salox looked at Admiral Chen. Because they came here expecting to do this alone. They came here expecting to die. They had no hope of reinforcement, no expectation of assistance, no reason to believe anyone would help them. And they came anyway. He turned to the council. Any species that would do that is either insane or unstoppable. Either way, I would rather have them as friends than enemies. The council was silent for a long moment. Then the old one nodded slowly. Very well. The Dominion will provide assistance. He looked at Chen. But know this, human, if this mission fails, if your information is wrong, if this is some kind of trick, there will be consequences. Chen nodded. Understood. But it is not a trick, and we will not fail. How can you be so certain? Chen's eyes hardened. Because failure is not an option we are willing to accept. Not for ourselves. Not for our children. Not for anyone. She stood up. Send your ships, counselor. Send your best warriors. We leave for the Expanse in 3 days. The channel closed. In the silence that followed, Salox heard one of the council members whisper to another. Did you see her eyes? She meant every word. I know. That is what terrifies me. Salox said nothing, but he agreed. These humans were not just allies. They were a reminder of something the Dominion had forgotten long ago. What it meant to truly believe in something worth dying for. The fleet gathered at the edge of the Korath Nebula. Admiral Chen stood at the observation deck of the Defiance and watched the ships arrive. First came the Valeth, 40 of their warships, each one massive and deadly, their smooth hulls reflecting the light of distant stars. They moved with the confidence of a species that had ruled this region of space for thousands of years. Then came others. The Resh sent 12 vessels. They were a species the Valeth had conquered centuries ago. Their ships were old and battered, but their crews were eager. They had heard about the humans. They had heard about the 19 soldiers who had made the mighty Dominion bleed. The Torval came next. 8 ships crewed by beings that looked like walking trees. They had been slaves of the Valeth for 200 years. Now they came as allies, ready to fight alongside their former masters against a common enemy. More species arrived. The Killik with their crystal ships. The Morath with their living vessels that breathed in space. The fallen ones whose world the Dominion had destroyed, now fighting to protect worlds that belonged to others. In 3 days, the fleet had grown from 7 human ships to 93 vessels from 8 different species. Chen watched them gather and felt something she had not expected. Pride. Not just in humanity, but in all of them. These species had reasons to hate each other. They had fought wars and killed each other's people and burned each other's worlds. But here they were, putting all of that aside because something bigger threatened them all. High Commander Salox appeared beside her. He moved quietly for such a large being. "It is impressive, is it not?" he said. "I never thought I would see the Resh and the Valeth flying in the same formation. Neither did they, I imagine." Salox made a sound that might have been a laugh. "No. When we told them about the mission, they refused at first. They said they would rather die than help the Dominion. What changed their minds? Your soldiers?" Chen looked at him. "What do you mean?" "We shared the medical report, the analysis of your boarding teams, the story of the one who carried his children's picture." Salox's voice was quiet. "The Resh lost their home world when we conquered them. Millions died. They have hated us ever since." He gestured at the Resh ships. "But when they heard about your soldiers, about what they sacrificed, something changed. One of their leaders said that any species willing to die like that deserved to be helped, even if it meant helping us too." Chen thought about Private Okonkwo, about the picture of his children. She wondered if he had any idea, when he threw that device clear of the blast, that it would help unite a fleet. Probably not. He had probably just wanted someone to remember him, to remember that he had been more than a soldier, that he had been a father. He would have liked that. She said quietly, knowing that his death meant something. "All of your soldiers' deaths meant something. They showed us that humans are not just warriors. They are." Salox paused, searching for the right word. "They are believers. They believe in things strongly enough to die for them. That is rare in the galaxy." "Is it?" "Yes. Most species fight because they must. Because they are threatened. Because they want power, or resources, or territory." Salox looked at the gathered fleet. "But your species came here for none of those reasons. You came here to protect children you will never meet, to save a future you will never see." He turned to face her. "That is not normal, Admiral. That is not what most species would do." Chen smiled slightly. "Maybe not. But it is what we do. It is what we have always done." She thought about Earth's history. The soldiers who had died on beaches and in trenches and in jungles. The firefighters who had run into burning buildings. The doctors who had worked until they collapsed during plagues. The ordinary people who had risked everything to save strangers. "Humans are selfish," she said. "We fight over stupid things. We hurt each other for no reason. We destroy our own world because we are too greedy to stop." She paused. "But when something threatens our children, something changes. All the selfishness goes away. All the pettiness disappears. We become something else." "What?" "Parents, protectors, guardians." Chen looked at the fleet. "That is what we are now. All of us. Every species in this fleet. We are not soldiers anymore. We are parents protecting our children from something that wants to eat them." Salox was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I think I understand." The next 2 days were chaos. The fleet had to be organized. Ships from 8 different species had to learn to work together. Communication systems had to be linked. Battle formations had to be planned. Supplies had to be distributed. And in the middle of all of it, Chen had to prepare for her own death. She did not tell anyone. There was no point. Everyone on the human ships knew the truth. The warheads they carried could not be detonated remotely. Something about the nursery's energy field interfered with their signals. The only way to trigger them was to fly directly into the creature's core and detonate them manually. Someone had to do it. Someone had to fly their ship into the heart of the monster and press the button. Chen had decided long ago that it would be her. She spent her last free evening recording a message for Maya. She sat in her quarters, looking at the camera, trying to find the right words. "Hey, baby," she said. If you are watching this, then the mission is over. One way or another. She paused. There was so much she wanted to say, so much she would never have time to explain. I know I promised I would come back, and I am sorry that I had to break that promise. But I need you to understand something. I did not leave because I wanted to. I did not leave because I did not love you. I left because I love you so much that I could not let anything hurt you, even if it meant never seeing you again. She wiped her eyes. The tears came anyway. There is a monster out here, Maya. A real monster, not like the ones in stories. It is very old and very big and very hungry, and if we do not stop it, it will come for you someday. It will come for everyone. She took a deep breath. So I'm going to stop it. That is my job now. That is why I came here. To make sure that monster never gets anywhere near you. She managed to smile. Be good, okay? Listen to your aunt, do your homework, and every once in a while, look up at the stars, and remember that your mom is out there somewhere, making sure you are safe. She reached out and touched the camera. I love you, Maya, more than anything in the universe. That is why I am doing this. That is the only reason that matters. She ended the recording. Then she sat in the darkness for a long time, crying quietly where no one could see. The next morning, the fleet departed. They entered the Korath Nebula in formation. 93 ships flying together toward something none of them fully understood. The nebula was beautiful, full of swirling colors and strange lights, but no one was watching the scenery. All eyes were on the darkness ahead, the hollow expanse. At first, it looked like nothing, just empty space. Darker than the space around it, but otherwise unremarkable. The sensors showed nothing. The scanners were silent. Then the Resh ship started to die. It happened without warning. One moment the lead Resh vessel was flying normally. The next moment it simply stopped. Its engines went dark. Its lights went out. It drifted silently, dead in space. Then another. Then another. What is happening? Salox demanded over the communication channel. Chen checked her sensors. The nursery. It is feeding on their ships, drawing energy through their shields. We are not even close to it yet. It does not matter. It is extending itself, reaching out to taste us. Chen felt her ship shudder. Power levels were dropping across the board. All ships, increase power to your shields. Fight it. Push back. The fleet struggled forward. More ships went dark. A Torval vessel exploded when its reactor overloaded, trying to compensate for the energy drain. A Killik ship simply crumpled, its crystal hull shattering without power to maintain its structure. But they kept going. The human ships were doing better than the others. Their technology was primitive, but that turned out to be an advantage. They had less sophisticated systems to drain, less complex machinery to fail. Their simple engines kept running, while more advanced vessels died around them. Admiral, Commander Torres said, "We are getting close enough for visual." Chen looked at the main screen. At first she did not understand what she was seeing. The nursery was not a creature in any normal sense. It was a network, a web of organic matter stretching across space, pulsing with dark energy. Tendrils reached out in every direction, each one hundreds of kilometers long. At the center was something that looked almost like a heart, a massive concentration of matter that beat with a slow, steady rhythm. It was alive. It was hungry. And it was waking up. Beautiful, someone whispered. No, Chen said. It is not beautiful. It is death. It is the end of everything. She opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We have reached the target. You all know the plan. 12 ships will act as bait, broadcasting maximum energy signatures to draw the nursery's attention. The rest of you will engage its defensive tendrils and clear a path to the core. She paused. And the Defiance will deliver the warheads. Salox's voice came over the channel. Admiral, let one of our ships carry the warheads. We have larger vessels, more armor, better chance of reaching the core. No, the warheads are keyed to human detonation codes. We designed them that way on purpose, in case they fell into the wrong hands. Chen smiled grimly. Besides, this is our mission, our responsibility. We came here to finish this, and we will. Silence on the channel. Then Salox spoke again. Admiral Chen, I have commanded the Valeth fleet for 30 years. I have met warriors from 100 species, but I have never met anyone like you or your people. Is that a compliment? It is the truth. And the truth is that I am honored to fight beside you. Whatever happens today, The galaxy will remember what humanity did here. Chen felt her throat tighten. Thank you, Commander. Now let us go kill a monster. The battle began. The bait ships spread out, their engines screaming at full power. They broadcast energy on every frequency, making themselves as loud and visible as possible. The nursery responded immediately. Its tendrils turned toward them, reaching out to drain them dry. The rest of the fleet attacked. Plasma fire and missiles and kinetic rounds poured into the creature. Tendrils were severed. Dark matter exploded into clouds of debris. The nursery screamed, a sound that was felt rather than heard. A vibration that shook every ship in the fleet, but it did not die. For every tendril they destroyed, 2 more grew to replace it. For every wound they inflicted, the creature healed itself almost instantly, and all the while, it was feeding on them, draining their power, killing their ships, one by one. The Defiance pushed forward through the chaos. Chen watched her screens as Allied vessels died around her. The Resh flagship was consumed by tendrils, its crew screaming over the radio until the signal cut off. A Valeth cruiser rammed into a tendril, detonating its reactor and blowing a hole in the creature's defense. The hole closed in seconds. We are not going to make it, Torres said. His voice was calm, but Chen could hear the fear underneath. There are too many tendrils. We cannot get through. Chen looked at the heart of the nursery. So close. Maybe 50,000 kilometers. But those kilometers were filled with death. Then a voice came over the radio. It was Saylox. Admiral, we are going to open a path for you. How? The same way your soldiers did on our ships. We are going to make it expensive to stop you. Chen watched as 10 Valeth warships broke formation and accelerated toward the core. They were not attacking the tendrils. They were not trying to survive. They were flying straight at the heart, knowing they would never reach it. But every tendril that reached for them was a tendril that was not reaching for the Defiance. Commander, Chen shouted. What are you doing? What you taught us, Saylox replied. His voice was steady. We are not trying to survive anymore. We are trying to make sure our children do. The Valeth ships exploded one by one, but they had done their job. A path was opening, a narrow corridor through the forest of tendrils. Admiral, Torres yelled. Now. Go now. Chen gripped her command console. All power to engines, ramming speed. The Defiance shot forward into the heart of darkness. The Defiance flew into hell. All around the ship, the nursery's tendrils reached and grasped and tore. The hull screamed as pieces were ripped away. Warning alarms filled the bridge with noise. Red lights flashed from every console. Admiral Chen stood at the center of it all, her hands gripping the railing, her eyes fixed on the creature's heart. Status report, she said. Her voice was calm, almost peaceful. We have lost the forward weapons array, Torres reported. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. Engine 2 is offline. We are venting atmosphere in 12 sections. Can we still reach the core? Torres looked at his console. His face was pale, but his hands were steady. Yes, barely. Maybe 5 more minutes. Then we keep going. The ship shuddered as another tendril slammed into them. Chen fell against her console, caught herself, and stood back up. Around her, the bridge crew was dying. Lieutenant Park was slumped over his station, blood pooling beneath his chair. 2 ensigns were trying to put out a fire near the weapons control. A midshipman was crying quietly as she worked to keep the shields online. They were children. All of them. The oldest member of her bridge crew was 28. Chen thought about Maya. About all the children back on Earth. About the future they would never see if she failed. Admiral, the comm officer said. His voice was weak. Chen looked over and saw that half his body was burned. He should not even be conscious. But he was still at his station, still doing his job. Message from Commander Saylox. Put it through. Saylox's voice filled the bridge. It was faint, broken by static, but Chen could understand it. Admiral, we have given you everything we can. 17 ships destroyed to clear your path. But the tendrils are reforming. You have maybe 3 minutes before they close around you. Understood. Admiral. Saylox paused. Chen could hear alarms in the background. The Eternal Sovereignty was still fighting somewhere behind her, still holding the line. It has been an honor. For me as well, Commander. Tell your people they fought well today. I will tell them they fought like humans. The channel went dead. Chen turned to her crew. There were 7 of them left. 7 people out of the 80 who had started the battle. They were wounded, exhausted, and terrified. But they were still there. Still fighting. "Listen to me," she said. "We are almost there. 2 minutes, and we will be at the core. When we arrive, I need everyone to get to the escape pods." Torres looked up sharply. "Admiral? The warheads cannot be detonated remotely. Someone has to stay and trigger them manually." Chen met his eyes. "That someone is me." "No." Torres stood up from his station. "I will do it. You need to survive. Earth needs you. Earth needs hope, Commander. And hope comes from knowing that their leaders did not ask anyone to make sacrifices they were not willing to make themselves." Chen smiled at him. "I came here to die, Torres. I accepted that 4 years ago. Let me do what I came to do." Torres stared at her for a long moment. Chen could see the argument forming in his mind. She could see him trying to find the words to change her decision. But in the end, he just nodded. "Yes, Admiral." The Defiance broke through the last line of tendrils and entered the core. It was like flying into a living cave. The walls were made of dark flesh that pulsed with energy. Strange lights flickered in patterns that almost looked like thought. The air, if there had been any, would have been thick with the smell of age and hunger and death. At the center of it all was the heart. A mass of concentrated matter the size of a small moon, beating with a rhythm that shook the universe. This was the source of the nursery, the mind, if something like this could have a mind, the place where all the stolen energy was gathered and stored. Chen looked at it and felt no fear. Only determination. "All hands, abandon ship," she ordered. "Get to the escape pods. Now." The bridge crew hesitated. None of them wanted to leave. None of them wanted to let her die alone. "That is an order," Chen said quietly. "Go. Tell our children we did our job." One by one, they left. Torres was the last. He stopped at the door and looked back at her. "Admiral, I will make sure they know. Maya, everyone, I will make sure they know what you did." "Thank you, Commander." Chen sat down in her command chair. "Now go. You have about 90 seconds before this place becomes very uncomfortable." Torres nodded. Then he was gone. Chen sat alone on the ruined bridge of her ship. Warning lights flashed around her. Smoke filled the air. The sound of the nursery's heartbeat filled her ears. Slow and steady and ancient. She thought about Maya, about her daughter's laugh, about the way she wrinkled her nose when she was concentrating, about the last time they had been together, sitting on the porch of their house, watching the sun set over the Pacific Ocean. "I wish I could see you grow up," Chen whispered. "I wish I could be there for your graduation, your wedding, your children. I wish I could have more time." She pulled up the detonation controls. The warheads were armed and ready. All she had to do was press one button. "But I do not regret this. Not for 1 second. Because everything I am giving up, every moment I will never have, means that you will have all of those moments. You will grow up. You will fall in love. You will have children of your own, and you will never know what it is like to be afraid of the darkness." She placed her finger on the button. "That is worth dying for. That is worth everything." Behind her, she heard escape pods launching. 6 of them, carrying the last survivors of her crew. They would make it out. They would tell the story. They would let the galaxy know what humanity had done here. And far away, on a small blue planet, a little girl would look up at the stars and know that her mother had kept her promise. Chen thought about all the parents who had come on this mission. All the fathers and mothers who had kissed their children goodbye and walked onto ships they knew would never bring them home. They had done it because they believed in something. Because they loved someone. Because they could not stand by and let the universe take everything they cared about. That was what it meant to be human. Not the technology, not the weapons, not the ships. It was the willingness to sacrifice everything for something bigger than yourself. Chen smiled. "Tell my daughter I made it count." She pressed the button. The Defiance vanished in a flash of light that burned across 3 star systems. The nursery screamed. From the surviving ships of the fleet, the remaining crews watched as the ancient creature convulsed and tore itself apart. The explosion at its core had shattered something fundamental. The network of tendrils withered and died. The great beating heart stuttered and stopped. In minutes, it was over. 65 million years of sleeping death, ended by 13 small ships from a planet no one had ever heard of. Saylock stood on the bridge of the eternal sovereignty and watched the creature die. Around him, his crew was silent. Some were crying. Others were praying. Most were simply staring at the screen, unable to believe what they were seeing. "It is done," Voreth said softly. "The humans did it." "Yes," Salox replied. "They did." He thought about Admiral Chen, about her calm face and her steady voice and her absolute certainty. She had known from the beginning that this was how it would end. She had accepted it, embraced it, used it as fuel to drive her forward. He had never understood humans before. He still was not sure he understood them now. But he knew one thing for certain: he would never laugh at them again. 6 months later, High Commander Salox stood before the Valeth High Council and gave his final report on the battle against the nursery. The council chamber was full. Representatives from a dozen species had come to hear his words. The Resh were there, and the Torval, and the Killik. Even species that had not participated in the battle had sent observers. Everyone wanted to know about the humans. Salox told them everything. The arrival of the small fleet, the battle that had seemed so one-sided, the boarding actions that had shown what humans could really do, the alliance that had formed against the ancient enemy, the final charge into the heart of the creature. And he told them about Admiral Chen. "She gave her life to save us all," he said. "She sat alone on her dying ship and pressed the button that destroyed the nursery. She did not hesitate. She did not ask for rescue. She simply did what needed to be done." One of the council members leaned forward. He was new, appointed after the battle, younger than most of the others. "Commander, there are those who say we should be concerned about these humans. They are clearly a dangerous species. What if they decide we are their enemy instead of their friend?" Salox was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his uniform and pulled out a small device. It was battered and cracked, but still functional. "This was recovered from the body of a human soldier," he said. "His name was James Okonkwo. He died destroying the engine room of one of our cruisers." He activated the device. The image appeared in the air above the council table. 3 children smiling at the camera, their arms around their father. "He threw this clear of the blast before he died," Salox continued. "He wanted someone to find it. He wanted us to know that he was more than a soldier, that he had a family, that he died for something." He looked at the council member who had asked the question. "You ask if we should be concerned about humans. I will answer with a question of my own. What kind of species produces soldiers who carry pictures of their children into battle? What kind of species builds ships to travel for 4 years just to die in a place they have never seen? What kind of species looks at a threat to their children and says, without hesitation, 'I will give everything to stop it'?" He turned off the image. Humans are not dangerous because of their weapons or their technology. They are dangerous because they believe in things. They love their children so much that they will walk into certain death without flinching. They care about the future so much that they will sacrifice everything to protect it. Salox looked around the chamber. "I have commanded fleets. I have conquered worlds. I have seen species that were stronger than humans, faster than humans, smarter than humans. But I have never seen a species that cared more than humans. And that, council members, is what makes them terrifying." He straightened his uniform. "My recommendation is that we never give them a reason to care about stopping us. Because if we do, they will come for us the same way they came for the nursery. With everything they have, until their last ship, their last soldier, their last breath." He paused. "And they will win. Because they will not know how to stop." The chamber was silent. Finally, the old council leader spoke. "What should we do, Commander? How should we proceed with these humans?" Salox smiled slightly. "We should be their friends. We should trade with them and learn from them and help them grow. We should show them that the galaxy is not their enemy." He paused. "And we should hope that they never decide we are a threat to their children. Because if they do, nothing in the universe will save us." He saluted the council and walked out of the chamber. Behind him, the representatives of a dozen species sat in silence, thinking about what they had heard, thinking about the small fleet that had made them all afraid. On Earth, the sun was setting over the Pacific Ocean. Maya Chen sat on the porch of her grandmother's house and watched the sky turn orange and pink and purple. She was 13 now, a year older than when her mother had left. A year older and a lifetime wiser. She knew the truth now. Everyone on Earth knew. The mission had succeeded. The nursery was destroyed. Humanity was safe, but her mother was not coming home. The message had arrived 3 months ago. A recording, sent across the stars by the survivors of the fleet. Commander Torres had delivered it personally, traveling 4 years just to keep his promise. Maya had watched the recording 100 times. She knew every word, every expression, every moment. She knew that her mother had died saving the universe. Maya looked up at the sky. The first stars were appearing, small points of light in the growing darkness. Somewhere out there, somewhere impossibly far away, a fleet of alien ships was carrying her mother's body home. They had insisted. They said it was the least they could do. Maya did not cry anymore. She had done enough crying. Now she just felt proud. Proud and determined and a little bit angry, because her mother had done something amazing, something that no one had ever done before. She had united species that had been enemies for thousands of years. She had destroyed a creature that had killed billions. She had saved the future, and she had left Maya with a job to do. The girl stood up and walked into the house. Her grandmother was in the kitchen, cooking dinner. The smell of food filled the air. "Grandma," Maya said, "I know what I want to do when I grow up." Her grandmother looked at her. She had the same eyes as Maya's mother, tired and sad and strong. "What is that, sweetheart?" "I want to build ships. I want to go to the stars." Maya's voice was steady. "I want to find the aliens who fought beside Mom. I want to thank them, and I want to make sure that nothing like the nursery ever threatens us again." Her grandmother was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. "Your mother would like that. I know." Maya looked out the window at the stars. "She told me to be good and do my homework, but she also told me to look up at the stars and remember her." She touched the glass. "I am going to do more than remember her, Grandma. I am going to make her proud." Far across the galaxy, on a damaged warship limping home, High Commander Salox received a message. It was from Earth, from a young girl named Maya Chen. The message was short. Just 2 sentences. "Thank you for fighting beside my mother. I hope to meet you someday." Salox read the message twice. Then he smiled. The humans were already building again, already looking toward the future, already refusing to be defeated by loss or grief or death. He had told the council that humans were terrifying because they cared so much. But now he understood something else. They were also inspiring, because they did not just fight for their children. They taught their children to fight too, generation after generation, passing down that spark of determination, that refusal to give up, that willingness to sacrifice everything for something bigger than themselves. Salox looked out at the stars and thought about the future, thought about Maya Chen, growing up on a distant world, dreaming of the day she would travel among the stars. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had changed everything, not with weapons or technology or power, but with something far more dangerous, hope, and somewhere, in whatever place beings went when their lives ended, Admiral Yuna Chen smiled. Her daughter was going to be just fine. The stars were waiting, and humanity was ready to meet them.